Gustaf. Come from Fintech Podden, which is one of the largest fintech podcasts in the Nordics. And today we will talk to who?
First of all, we have Peggy Poon from Microsoft for Startup joining us here. So could we please get a short introduction from yourself and the program?
Yes, my name is Peggy, and I'm responsible for Microsoft for Startups in Sweden and Norway. And overall, what it is a program that helps B2B startups to scale and grow.
Nice.
So in what specific ways do you actually help startups? We have been listening in on the discussions before. We have venture capital and operators. They provide like help with the organizations and capital, but you help in another way, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we heard from Antler, Ventures and Velt Street that they go in and help the startups to grow. And Microsoft's strength is to help startups to scale. And why is that? Is because Microsoft is a partner-driven company. We have a relationship with most complex enterprises in the world. And when you're in a scale-up mode as a startup, all you think about is to sell and sell and sell. And here is where Microsoft becomes handy for the startups because we have account executives and we have sellers that has a good relationship with banks, for example, if they're in the fintech world, or other enterprises that wants to use fintech solutions. And as a startup, it can be difficult to get into these organizations because of the regulations and the complexity. So together with Microsoft, the startups can go into these organizations and sell quicker and easier.
Interesting. And from your perspective, what kind of challenges do you see for fintechs today?
There are many. It's a fast-paced environment. A lot is happening in the fintech world and a lot of opportunities as well. For example, with the new regulation in the EU, a lot of fintech companies are coming. And because of that, the security is very important in the banking sector, for example.
You're thinking about PSD2?
Exactly, yeah. PSD2. And here is where Microsoft comes handy as well, because we value security very high. And that is what the startups can get help with us. We can validate their technical architecture and we can make sure that their solution is safe for the banks, for example.
Nice. And if you are a startup now then and looking for this kind of collaboration and help, what kind of startups are you looking for?
We're looking for B2B startups because our strength is to help them to reach to other businesses, but also startups that are ready to scale. A lot of startups, they think they're ready, but they're not. But we want them to have a product that is ready to grow exponentially, to sell to more and more companies.
So we're talking Series A, Series B type of startups?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And based on your history working with startups here in the Nordic region, do you have any lessons learned that you can give tips to other fintechs that they can avoid or maybe still continue doing that has been successful?
I will give a very general example then. Startups is a fast-paced environment. They need to continue with developing their product, so they have to think about their technology. They have to choose technology that is ready to follow this fast-paced environment. So I have seen examples where they get problems later when they don't think about it earlier. So my advice would be to think about it early.
Yeah. So any specific areas that you think are very exciting now, the upcoming month or years ahead of us in the fintech space?
Since we're talking about fintech, I think with the PSD2 regulation, there's so much to do within open banking. I've seen very interesting startups in this area, but there's capacity for more.
And we see regulations around the world
Exactly.
doing similar type of regulations as PSD2. So
Exactly.
that's super exciting. Are there any other kind of trends in fintechs that you see today in the fintechs that you meet and so on?
I see more and more startups working, they have solutions toward banks. Before, it was difficult to sell to banks, but now, again, with the regulations, I see a trend that a lot more is focusing on B2B.
Becoming a supplier
Yeah,
to the bank.
exactly.
So banks open up their systems, they can share data in a better way, and that's open up new possibilities for both the banks and the business-to-business fintechs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You put it very
Yeah.
well.
Nice. And any other thoughts on this type of collaboration between fintechs and banks? Are there any specific things that a fintech needs to have in place for a successful collaborations? And also vice versa, from the bank side, what can the bank do to better facilitate this type of collaborations? Do you have any top of mind action points there?
I see a lot of banks, they are thinking about enabling innovation. They're working more agile and they need more new technology. So I see a trend where banks, we're working, for example, with Swedbank, where we're trying to make sure that they are ready to accept the startup solutions. They're moving more into cloud and they try to follow with this world. And when it comes to fintechs, it's the same. Work with organizations that knows the banks. For example, at Microsoft, we already work with the banks and we know what they need and we know the regulations. So as a startup, talk to a lot of organizations.
And to just round up our conversation a bit, how can a fintech that fits the scale, like Series A or Series B, working in the fintech business-to-business space, how can they get in touch with you and like where can they find more information and so on?
We have a website called startups.microsoft.com, but also contact me if you are interested in exploring Microsoft for startups.
So I think we have a couple of seconds left. So any last advice for maybe from the other side, from the banks? What can the banks do to make this type of collaborations better? Any like specific advice they can do?
I would say you're doing well if you are following with innovation and going more agile and accepting the startups. And in addition to that, show that you're interested. And you never know if a startup has a great solution. Be open and speak to them if they reach out to you.
So embrace new technology and embrace this type of thinking, like open up and invite fintechs to come and talk to
Exactly,
them. Yeah.
because if you don't invite the newest technology, then you will just be behind the other banks.
So,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Pum, for joining us here today. Very exciting discussions. So now we hand over back to Ulf.
We're having a good time over here.
Oh, that's great.
Really nice.
Do you get any ideas or comments or reflections when you hear this discussion?
Yeah, I think the economy, for example, is a super exciting example for the next generation of fintech emerging from Sweden here, like how you have succeeded with this type of bank fintech collaboration and spreading like based from here, but also around the world. And I also think this type of services is really driven by the users. They really want to get in insight and like actually start to utilize the data that are already out there to make better decisions and so on. So I think this is a really first wave of the next generations of fintechs, I think.
Yeah, and one area that I also think is very interesting is investments. So we are very good at measuring what kind of is a good investment and what is a bad investment, but we don't look so much in terms of green finance and what is a good impact of the environment and so on when you think of investments. So that's also a growing area that I think is very interesting. Yeah, do we have any other takeaways?
No, but I think like to be able to do this type of growth that Docomri, for example, has done, like that really shows that it is possible for a small fintech to collaborate with these large financial institutions. But I think it's also like to really take learnings from this journey that it's one of the most successful, but there's also a couple of non-successful out there. So to really highlight the good things that you actually have been doing in this area, it's really impressive, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys. Over there, what kind of reflections do you get when you hear this?
We think that it's really interesting with this topic, and it's a really important one, and definitely interesting with the changing of mindsets, and that's crucial to really get something out of this area. But Johan, I know that you have some experience in this area.
Yeah, actually I have some hands-on experience. I'm building a fintech company now in the sustainability space where we're trying to help other fintechs with their financing of circular economy applications and so on. And I totally agree with many of the facts stated before in the discussion that there are a willingness from the different players in the space to do this type of new financing solutions, for example, but there are also a lot of struggles that needs to be overcome. For example, the regulations are not upgoing with this type of pace that's happening on the technology side. So I think banks can utilize fintechs for the technology collaborations, but there also needs to be a better discussion with governments, for example, to really push the regulations to facilitate this change as well.
And we see that in the EU here. It's an upcoming or ongoing regulation, the EU taxonomy, that is about enabling this area. And is that something that you have looked into more? Or?
No, I think that taxonomy is a really great example, but I think that is more from on the investment sides, like to help fund managers or investment managers to really get the right data from their investments to really see that the company they invest in, that they are doing the right things and at the right time and so on. So I think that covered that area, but I think that is the next area where we'll see a lot of new fintech emerge that really support and facilitate this change.
Interesting. And we jump back to you, Ulf.
Yeah. Thank you for that, guys.
Yes, as you said, we have with us today, we have Kristina Söderberg and Gabriel Lundström. Very welcome.
Thank you very much.
How are you? And can you give a short introduction to yourselves?
Absolutely. So I'm Kristina Söderberg. I work as investment manager at SEB Venture Capital. That's our investment arm for doing fintech investments. We've had the investment team since 25 years, but now for the last 4 or 5 years, we do primarily fintech investments and also strategic ones. I have a portfolio today of 13 companies, which most of them we also collaborate with from the bank side. Myself have worked with investments for 10 years now. Prior to that, worked with business development and financial sales. So that's my background.
Interesting. And you, Gabriel?
My name is Gabriel Lundström and I work as head of sustainability for our corporate and private customers division within SAB, and I'm also head of sustainability for our life company. So.
Yeah, and I think just to highlight that, I think personally that you are at SEB are one of the best large bank in this area, since you have this type of investment arms that you really enables fintechs to come in and use their technology. You were early in Tink, for example. You have collaboration with the Capsitu that was here before. Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit how you work with this type of fintech companies?
Absolutely. So I think it all starts with us understanding a bit more what happens in the fintech space, what's cooking out there, and also understanding and being the bridge to our colleagues at business development and product owners to understand what are the needs among our customers, but also the needs for SEB ourselves to become more automated and digital. So it's a combination of when scouting for these new solutions. When we then actually do the investment and the partnership, we try to do that in parallel. So we have the full effect of doing it jointly, and us assessing the company from a different perspective than the product owner or the business owner would do. I think it's quite a fruitful assessment to make. Will this company be sustainable over time, also from an investment perspective? If so, then it's probably a very good company to also collaborate with. And it's a team that we, from both investment perspective and business perspective, feel like we have the joint values, we can create solutions together, and I think Capcito or P-Accounting or Leasify or these, or Tink, as you mentioned yourself, are good examples of where we collaborate very closely, actually. So in Capcito case, for example, we have, of course, during the years of their finding the final the solution that they have, there's a lot of competence from the bank side that we could give, and they sit on the competence of using this new technology, extracting data in a very efficient way, helping us to become more automated and efficient, but also enabling for the SME customer to get financing from us.
And today you hear from the investment side and the sustainability side. Do you have any common engagement at the moment together? Do you work to find the new sustainability fintechs to invest in?
Well, briefly, the answer is yes, but I guess we can't get into that more at the moment.
Yeah, but I think, as I said, we've done investment for 25 years. We've done fintech strategic investments for 5 years, and now I think we're moving into the era where we'll also be looking much more closely. So the sustainability team at SEB has grown very much over the last year, and now there is much more resources to dig into what are the needs of our customers, how can we help them, and what are the needs from SEB side. I mean, we need to do our reporting as well. Just to put it into the reporting perspective, there are many aspects of course, sustainability.
And from your perspective, Gabriel, what challenges do you see for enabling for sustainability in fintech?
Well, I think you should start looking into what are the challenges for the banks and for the financial industry, and what are the challenges for our clients, because that probably is also they are the most important ones for us. And what challenges do we face in the industry and the business community in general? I would say data and measurability is one of the key things, and that's one of the things that will be required from both the business community and the financial industry. If you look into the sort of the upcoming regulations from the European Union, both EU Green Deal and EU Action Plan, which is targeted at the financial industry. So my advice in general, if you are an actor in a fintech actor that has a focus on sustainability, or looking into making business on sustainability in our industry, focus on sort of looking into what the regulations are saying right now, because there will be challenges both for our clients, and if you can solve problems for our clients, you will be helping us, right? And we will be interested to collaborate. And the second thing is there will be challenges for us as well when it comes to assessing data, because there are demands on us, as Christina mentioned, when it comes to both reporting, but also if we are to assess the clients we're both investing in or lending money to, we need to be able to compare how strong or not strong they are when it comes to sustainability, and that is a huge challenge at the moment. It's not comparable, and it's very hard to assess data.
So any specific areas, you mentioned data, that you're both looking into now when you're searching for fintech to do collaborations or investment in? Are there any specific ones you think are very exciting now, the upcoming month or years?
What would you say? You see more of them, I suppose, but...
No, but I think back to what Gabriel said, that we think when we can solve the challenges for our customers, and I think primarily the corporate customers are the ones we're thinking of right now. Up till now, we've seen more solutions directed towards the private customers, but where we see that we could make a huge change and help out would be for the corporate customers. So I guess in that space, without revealing too much.
And to round up the discussion, any tips or tricks for all the emerging fintechs in this space out there? How to best collaborate with players like yourself?
First of all, if you can solve our clients' problems, we will probably be interested in looking into that. And there's a lot of challenges within this area right now. I would avoid the investment area because it's growing and it's more maturing. When we're talking about the credit side, the financing side, there is a huge gap right now. And when it comes to providing data on that, so we can assess the risks, you will probably have a lot sort of to be able to contribute to us. And do you have anything to add finally?
Yeah, no, I think, as you said, all banks will be very interested in getting in contact with companies who can solve these problems.
Yeah.
All right. With that said, we say thank you to both of you, and thanks from us at Fintech Podden, and we jump over to the next session.